think that's where a lot of people go bad with a pup. They throw them in a pen and just throw feed to them every day. And to me, you got to make a connection with them. Some guys don't agree with me on that, but I think you got to have a good bond with a dog.
It's real simple, I think, with a pup, and a lot of people don't understand it. When a pup is ready to start, it will start. You can't force a pup to start, and you can't force a pup to treat. It has to do it on its own.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. My name is Clayton Stark of Stark Outdoors, and if you like coon hunting and squirrel hunting with dogs, I think you'll like this podcast a lot. And if you enjoy this podcast, you can also go over to YouTube and check out my YouTube channel, where I feature some of the top handlers and hounds in the world and go pleasure hunting, as well as feature some competition hunting. So I think you really enjoy that. And today I actually just got home from Walker Days, and I went down there to capture an interview for Walker Days, and they have their Talk with Legends, and this year they interviewed Dick Brothers and Charlie Butler, and they had Brett Hall conduct this interview, and this is what this podcast is going to be, is the audio from that. So I hope you enjoy it, and here it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate y'all very much for being here. I'm going to echo a lot of the same things that Danielle said. My name is Brett Hall. I'm from Coburn, Virginia. That's why I talk the way I do. I'm an at-large director of the Treeing Walker Breeders and Fanciers Association, and I am honored to be here with these gentlemen, Mr. Dick Brothers and Mr. Charlie Butler, for our conversation with the legends. They're giants in the coon hunting world. They're a wealth of knowledge, and I think it's for our benefit that they are here with us today. What I would like to do, I think, is start out by talking to these gentlemen about the Treeing Walker breed, about breeding programs, then get into training programs, and then just talk about hunting in general. And if we have time at the end, we'll take some questions from the audience. So if y'all don't mind, give these fellas a round of applause. Charlie, I'll start with you. Just introduce yourself to the folks here. Tell us where you're from and how long you've been coon hunting, and what got you into coon hunting.
Well, I'm from Cambridge City, Indiana, and what really got me into coon hunting was a doctor. He had a hound. I'd never heard a hound tree. I was about 6 years old, and where we lived at the time, coon was really, really thin. And my dad had found a coon track up a holler, so he told the doctor, and he brought his hound over, and that hound struck that track up that holler. Boy, and he run him around and come down in front of our house and treed. And my dad had always had squirrel dogs, but that's the first real hound that I ever heard on a tree. And he's a big white walker dog. And from then on, I just loved the hound, you know. And I got my first dog when I was 13. And
have you been doing it ever since, Charlie?
Been doing it ever since.
All righty. Dick, I guess same question for you. Where are you from, and how long have you been in this sport, and what got you into it?
Well, I live at Peru, Indiana right now, and I love to trap and so forth, and I was running a trap line one night. I got shot by a coon hunter, and he hunted English dogs, and so I wanted to go along. So I went along with him, and his dog treated a possum right out of the truck, you know.
Well, he was hunting English dog, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, and then I didn't have a dog at the time, and I went with a good friend of mine. He had a pair of black and tan dogs. One was a strike dog and track dog. The other one was a tree dog. I hunted whole season with him. So I learned how to coon hunt by him, and I took it from there. And I went bought a Walker dog
Okay. So when did you get into the Walker breed?
in the early 70s.
Okay. And I know for as long as I've known you, Dick, your name is synonymous with the Charlie Creek line of dogs. Tell us how you got that line of dogs started and how that came about.
Well, I trapped a creek at Wabash, Indiana. It was named Charlie Creek. So it was named after a Miami Indian chief, Charlie. So that's how I got the name Charlie Creek.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was your first dogs, and what was their style versus what you have today?
Well, probably the same type of style. I had the first dog was by Miller's Rock, and he was a third or fourth strike dog, but a first street dog, and naturally he would be alone. Back then, you don't have very many dogs be alone, lonely. So that's how I started. And I hunted a dog in my first competition hunt for Mike Kohler. Her name was Brandy, and I won the second place in the Ohio State Championship that year, and my first competition hunt.
That was your first competition?
Yes, sir.
Should have just quit right then and there.
Well, yeah, probably. But once it's in your blood, I can't quit.
Yeah.
Really.
And Charlie, you're with the Buck Creek line of dogs. Tell us how that got started.
Well, there was a young guy there at Nicetown, Indiana that I hunted quite a bit with, and he had seen this pup advertised down in Harrisburg, Kentucky. And he went down there and he seen him in the American Cooner, and he bought him off of a guy by the name of Junior Yeager. And so he brought him up, and I had sold him a little double banjo bred dog that chewed on trees some, and he wanted that very spot, if you know what I'm saying. Now, dogs could tree all around, but he would wear the coon scent off of that spot. Well, so he got this pup that later I named Buck Creek Drum. He got him to track it, but he wouldn't tree. So I went hunting with him one night, and I seen what was happening. He would stay around the tree, and he'd bawl. So he asked me, he said, Charlie, he said, I think he's going to be a ball mouth tree dog, don't you? And you know, a lot of people don't like a ball mouth tree dog. And I said, well, I don't know, Mike. And so I hunted with him one more night. He did about the same thing. And I said, well, I need a young dog to hunt, so you might as well sell him to me. I said, you ain't gonna fool with him. So I gave him $600 for it. And I had a Grand Night champion female, and I hunted him with her 3 nights, and the third night I turned him loose, and it was probably 300 yards back to the woods, but there's a couple big oak trees set about halfway between the woods and where I turned loose, and well, they struck and went out into a corn, come back in there, and she just parked down the tree, and he hushed. So I stood there and waited a little bit, and nothing. So I thought, well, I'll go in there and see if I can get him treeing. Well, when I got to the tree, there was a dog right at the edge of the woods, just hammering the tree. And I thought, my God, somebody turned in on me. And so it took me a few minutes to realize that's my pup. You know. So I goes back to him. I've already seen 3 coon on a tree here. And I goes back to him, and he's got the old sow. Well, I just loved him up real good, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because if they do it once, they're going to do it again.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? I just loved him up good. And fed him up and went back up and leashed her up and went to the truck. And from then on, it was just me and him.
Right. And he turned out to be a good one, didn't he?
Yeah, and he got his name. I hunted a little creek just like what Dick was talking about a lot, called Bluff Creek. And it still runs right behind my son's house where he lives. And I hunted for, I don't know exactly how far it runs. I think it runs clear up in here all the way down through southern Indiana. But I hunted probably for a 6-mile section there. And always liked to hunt the rivers and stuff like that.
Now Dick touched on something a minute ago that he said that back then you didn't have a lot of dogs that were loners, and I think that's a lot of what we look for and breed for now.
Mm-hmm.
Is that your experience with it, and when did you see that kind of start to change and people breed for that trait more?
Well, the first true loner dog I had was Gracie, and she absolutely would not back a dog. Now, dogs could tree with her all they wanted. So if they got around to the other road, you had to drive around, and the dogs were treed, I knew she treed the coon because she would not back a dog. But I think that's why at the time that I could do so much winning with her.
Right.
Is people just didn't have dogs at that time. We were hunting more dogs that we wanted them together, if you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
And she was just a dog. She was just independent as she could be.
Right. Well, we've talked about how you guys, I guess, started your breeding program. Dick, at what point did you feel like you were really onto something with your Charlie Creek dogs, and that you were going in the direction that you wanted for the traits that you wanted?
Well, when I had the Charlie Creek beauty bitch, she was my major stick. And when I acquired Charlie Creek Mac in 1990, I bred him 5 females, and he threw natural independent dogs in 1990. That's the first I realized I had a stud dog. And from there, he threw a world champion Tara, and she was independent. She would tree with a dog, but she would like to be by herself. And her strongest point was when coons wasn't moving, she would make something happen. And matter of fact, I drew an English female one night. She scored over 1,000 points Friday night. And long story short, Terrier treats 6 or 7 coons, and that bitch only treats 1. But she was really good at layup coons.
Now, Tara, what year did you win the world championship?
1994.
Okay, and you were talking about Big Mike. You were talking about Mac. Okay, how long did you have Mac?
Had him for 10 years until he died.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Same question to you, Charlie. When do you think you really felt like you were onto something with your line of dogs?
Well, and until I bought that pup, I had just hunted this dog with that dog, always a walker dog. But I would start a dog, and somebody liked him better than I did, I'd sell him and start another one. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I had this one dog. He never had a night champion or a grand night champion on his pedigree. He was mainly he went back to the old White Cloud and the Redwood breeding. And I kept that dog. I got him when he was 6 months old. And I hunted him 13 winters. And I buried him. But he was absolutely a coon dog. And but when I bought that pup and went to hunting him, the drum pup, there was just something about him. And I know Dick knows the feeling. There was something about that dog. He was so intelligent. And there was just something about him that And he didn't want to bother junk. He just wanted to tree coon. It was like I take him to a strange woods. He knew which part of it to go to get after a coon. That might sound funny to a lot of guys, but that's the way it is. And but he's the only dog, truthfully, that I ever thought of raising pups out of.
Right.
Yeah.
Dick, and I know we've talked about this before, but you said something that was interesting to me at one point. Have you ever felt like your program was headed in the wrong direction, and did you feel like you were not seeing what you were looking for in your pups, and what did you do about that?
Yes, I did. I bred to a world champion one time, and it wasn't a cross I wanted, really. And then I made some more outcrosses. So it set me back 5 years. When you make 1 or 2 outcrosses, it will set you back a long time. So from there, I went and line bred and come up with Big Mike. It put me back on record, and through mouth, ability, and number one, I say brains. You got a lot of brains.
Yeah.
And that's something I've heard both you guys say. And this is for my benefit and for the benefit of everybody here. We want different things. You're not going to get everything in one dog that you want. One that gets its mouth open, or one that's a hard tree dog, or this, that, or the other. What is that the most important trait that you think? I mean, is
intelligence.
Think so?
Sir. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
You'd agree with that?
Yes, sir.
It's intelligence in a dog. Because they're dogs, and I've said this to people, and sometimes they laugh at me, and sometimes they look at me kind of crazy.
You're the one standing at the Legends table, okay? So,
dogs are like people in this sense. There is dogs that are smarter than the people that's hunting.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's the gospel. But there's dogs that's truly smart, and there's other dogs. It doesn't matter how much time you put in. He is not, and I'm not saying he won't make a dog that'll run and tree a coon, but he ain't gonna make a dog that's gonna please you if you're a hard to please person.
Dick, you were talking about line breeding. Something that I've heard a lot of folks say, and I want to get y'all's opinion on it. Is how closely related are you talking? When you said that you turned your program back around by line breeding, what did you mean by that, and what dogs did you breed?
Well, uncle niece cross and grandmother to grandfather cross, and I think when you line breed, you get more of the line grandparents than you do the individual dogs. Myself.
Has that been your experience as well,
Yes,
Charlie?
yes,
Okay.
sure has.
Something else that you mentioned, you bred to a world champion. I've seen a lot of times, dogs go out and win the world, and everybody wants to run and breed to that dog. And sometimes I believe you see litter mates of really nice dogs or world champions or whatever that may not be a nice dog themselves, but they throw those traits. Is that something that you have seen in your experience, or is that bad advice or good advice?
You asking me?
Sure.
Okay, I'll be honest with you. I've seen very few world champions that was reproducers. It's old Spot that's tied up in the backyard. He's been the one that has produced these world champions. And I always told, if someone wanted to breed a female to my dog, they'd come to my house. I'd say, do you want to hunt with him, or do you want to hunt with a young dog out of him, because I'd always have a couple young dogs out of him. I'd give them their choice there. And I always thought, even when I was in the Walker Association, I felt this way, is I know we had a lot of discussions over dogs that are going into the Hall of Fame. Well, if you've got a dog and you're running him at stud, and everybody in the country pulls in and brings all the good females in there and breeds to him, he's got to produce something, because they'll do their share of producing. But when you got old Spot tied up in the backyard that just bred a few dogs, and he starts turning out world champions and grand night champions and stuff like that. And the thing of it is when everybody goes to breeding to one dog, you're going to get them all related too much.
Right.
So you kind of got to hold on to what you have somewhat.
Sure. And last question I'll ask about breeding, and certainly these folks at the end, if they have a thought or a question, they can ask it. But the last question I have as far as the breeding program, Dick, I'll ask you. If you've got a dog like, say, just say Tara, for instance, that you know is what you're looking for in a dog. It's got the genetics. Big Mike, you know, one of your dogs that you really know that has what you're looking for, and you're getting grand pups or great grand puppies out of that dog, and you're not seeing what you're looking for. Do you scrap that line and start something new, or do you just keep breeding for what you're looking for, or what is your advice on that?
Well, I would do eye crossing. You know, I'm not jealous of anybody, and what made me successful, I would look for one trait in breeding, and I would go get that trait from another breeder. If I see a dog I liked and he was throwing dogs, I would. I'm not jealous of anybody. I would just go breed to that dog and try to get some traits back.
Right, gotcha. I want to kind of, that's a good place to segue into training, into a training program versus the breeding that we've been talking about. When you breed your dog, Charlie, and you go and you get that pick of the litter, and those puppies are in that laundry basket about 6 weeks old, what do you look for? Or is it just?
Well, if we could pick out the one that's really going to make it, we could all be millionaires.
I probably couldn't, but you could.
We can't do that. I'll tell you, when I would raise a litter of pups myself, out of, well, to kind of give you an idea, I took my old Lucy female, and I bred her to a dog that I had drawed. And I just squeaked by beating him. And a very well-known man owned him, but he was coon dog all the way. So this was before I'd gotten a hold of this pup. And so I bred her to him, and there was one pup out of that litter turned out. So when he was old enough, I bred him to her, and she had 6 pups, and they all turned out. So it's, and I'm like Dick. I was never ever. I'll tell you how jealous I am of people's dogs and whatever is. Most of the people I've hunted with hunted blue ticks, black and tans, red bones. It didn't make me no difference. If they had a coon dog, I liked it. You know what I'm saying? And I used to go off in the wintertime because I'd work all summer. I'd crowd my people up on one big job in the winter, and I'd go off hunting. And so a lot of times I'd go out in Arkansas and hunt with Mr. T.E. Neely. If anybody hunts blue dogs, they remember T.E. Neely. And so the drum dog went back to Gold Creek Mundo. So Bert McAfee is the guy that bred and raised him. And so when Bert learned that I was coming out there hunting with T.E., he would come up there and hunt with us. You know, he's a heck of a nice guy. He was over the, he was a chief law enforcement officer over the conservation department in Arkansas. But, and Dick can tell you, you know, over the years, we've met doctors, lawyers.
We usually try to stay away from those people where I'm at.
You know? But you know, a lot of great people. They've been. That's the thing with me. I mean, something I want to say is, my dogs let me meet so many people that if I hadn't been a coon hunter, I'd never have met. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right. Dick, I guess kind of along the same lines, when you breed your dogs and you get that litter of pups, I've had people keep the entire litter for a while, you know, and see what's going to turn out. Do you? What's your strategy on that?
Well, I don't keep a whole litter, definitely. But you have an alpha male and an alpha female every litter. Mm-hmm. I don't keep them because they can get aggressive, mm-hmm. so you have to call them, you know. And I choose a bold pup. I like a pup to be off by itself. So.
And sometimes you can see that at a very young age, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Once these pups get age of going out and training, well, let me just ask both of you that. What is there a certain age, or do you just look at the certain pup and say, well, I think he's ready to start trying to train, or what do you guys try to do?
Well, I know back years ago, people didn't actually start their dogs till they was around 8, 9 months old. They just didn't fool with them because people was breeding more for a dog that was balanced, and then as population shrunk our hunting, and so many people that pleasure hunters, they're just non-existent anymore. And what you have just competition hunters. But they, I'm losing my train of thought. But it's like
we were talking about. You said sometimes people didn't start their dogs until 8 or 9 months old. What do you generally?
Okay, now you can start your dog a lot earlier because they have bred so much tree in them, if you know what I'm saying.
Right.
And if a dog will, if he's interested in a coon, he's time to hunt. You know, if he can get through, you can get him out in the woods, get him over the logs and stuff like that.
Sure.
You can pretty well get him started. Now, I find I don't want to start him real early because I don't want to get him barking after dogs and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? I want him big enough and leggy enough to where he can keep up. You know what I'm saying?
Is that about the same for you, Dick?
Similar,
okay.
But a pup will show you when he's ready to start, you know, by his action. You know, puppies don't start at the same age, and
what do you normally do, Dick, or does it just have is it just different things for different dogs, or you know, a lot of these guys just turn their pup loose with their old dog, and what kind of program, or what do you generally do with your pups when they're young?
I start puppies on coon scent, drag. If they show interest, I keep that up, and just like the fire bitch I started, she would trio on coons 8 months old, and I started her. I showed her a coon. I start them on a caged coon in their kennel because their kennel is their safe place. So if they show interest in the outside of the kennel in a cage coon, I would start them, you know. And I usually have a dog beside there in the kennel, so that helps too. Yeah, so if they show interest, I will start them, and I usually only show them a cage coon or two, and I turn one coon, maybe two, loose to them, and let them treat it. I hunt them alone. I don't start them with very many dogs, really.
Right. Charlie, what about you?
Well, I like to hunt a dog, take a pup, and before you got the litter, before people comes and gets them. And I like to take the coon hide and play with them a little bit, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And they'll really get interested. But then I let the dog get some size on them, if you know what I'm saying. And I just more or less take them to the woods with another dog. And usually 2 or 3 times of that, as soon as that dog will tree a little with another dog, then it's just me and him. I quit hunting them with another dog.
Right. And both of you guys have said that. Do you find that gives your pup more confidence, more independence?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. One coon that a dog trees by himself, and you can get it down to him, is worth 2 dozen with another dog, because it builds he knows. I've had dogs in the woods, young dogs, and they truly believed they was the only dog in the woods that could tree a coon.
Right.
They just didn't pay no attention to another dog.
Sure. I know if you're anything like me, you've had your pup in the woods before and just absolutely wanted to kill it.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and I guess patience is a
You got
virtue,
it. Yeah.
as they say.
Yeah.
But at what point do you have high hopes for a pup and then give up on it, or can you kind of walk us through what you look for as your pup starts to progress, and if it regresses, sort of what your mindset is on that?
I've had very little regression, really. When I start a pup, I wait till they show me they're ready to start, and I have very little of that, really.
Charlie?
Well, you know, I've had a lot of guys tell me, you know, they get their pups started and they're doing real good, and then they backslide on them. I've never, honestly and truthfully, I've never had that, because you can push one too hard.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And but there's a certain time in a young dog's life to where he needs pushed, and then you need to start backing off of him. You know what I'm saying? And used to, when I was getting a dog ready for a world hunt, I would probably give that dog 1 coon out of 30 trees. And I've seen so many guys when you're hunting 5 and 6 nights, is what I'm talking about, is dog would look great for 3 nights, and then he wouldn't stay treed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because the handler was giving him too many coons.
Mm-hmm.
He just giving him too many coons.
Well, and that's that was literally my next question. We're talking about a young dog, okay? What do you do as far as shooting out coons versus not shooting out coons? You're just getting one started, as opposed to a 2 or 3 year old dog.
Well, to me, with a young dog, I never want to give them a coon until I feel like they deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've had young dogs before that certain situations, I'd be hunting them by themselves, and they'd tree their first coon right in behind somebody's house. Well, I just love him up and leave. Because if he done that once, he's going to do it again. And sometimes I've had them to have a young dog.
Charlie, that goes back to that patience, because you've got more patience than I do then.
Well, you got, I've had a few young dogs that maybe treed 5, 6 coon before I had the opportunity to get one down to him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm not sitting here acting like I'm no saint, because I've You know, our running law used to be closed in Indiana all the time, and I've had game wardens come through and put spotlights on my kennels many a night. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What's your philosophy on shooting out coons to a young dog?
Well, years ago, when coons were worth a lot of money, I was poor. I killed everyone I treated, you know. But that's years ago. I don't believe in killing a lot of coon, you know. And when I train the dogs, I usually mix it up. If I'm gonna kill a coon, maybe I will kill the first coon in the night. Maybe I will kill the seventh coon in the night. I mix it up. I let them tree for periods of time, 10 minutes one time, half an hour another time. So they don't know when I'm going to get there, you know, and that's what I do.
Okay. And I guess the follow-up to that is, do you find that it depends on the dog a lot of times?
Yeah. And another thing is when you kill a lot of coon to the dog, that creates problems. That creates aggression, and that creates going back to trees. So you're kicking yourself in the butt, so to speak, you know. So you have to correct those problems.
Sure.
Well, here's something that I think kind of needs passed on. If you can't make a dog mind and train him some around the house and him respond to you, you're not going to do no good in the woods with him. You know, he has to have brains.
Right.
Brains is as important as their blood. He's got to have intelligence.
I guess that goes back to what we were saying about the breeding. I guess moving to just hunting in general, and I told you fellas that I was going to ask you this question. You know, you mentioned and some you've mentioned some hunts that you've been on before, and I know some of my best memories are in the woods, coon hunting with my dad and my family. Is there like your Jerry Clower coon hunting story? Do you have that story? Do you have one hunt that just sticks out in your mind that you don't care to share here on camera with everybody?
Oh, I think we have hundreds of them.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, when you hunt in night hunts, you got to be. It doesn't matter how good a dog you have. You're going to win your share.
Mm-hmm.
But there's all kinds of there's one way of winning, and there's dozens of ways of losing. You know what I'm saying? So you got to be a person that just takes everything as a grain of salt, if you know what I'm saying. Let it roll off your back and move on. Because people that does wrong in this sport, everybody knows it. You know what I'm saying? If you do right in the sport, everybody knows that too. So, you know, you do whatever your morals and everything allows you to do.
Dick, I think there's at least one attorney at this table, but I think there's two because Charlie just answered that question exactly how I would have.
Yeah.
What can you share one of your fondest stories with us?
Well, I can share a couple.
Okay, listen.
Back years ago when coons were worth a lot of money, and I was hunting, I was trespassing, you know, and back then they didn't care if you hunted. But I was at one place one night, and landowner come back on me, and I parked my truck up on the road. He pulled in behind my truck, and they flashed lights all over the field, and I laid down in the field and covered my dog. And he drove around and flashed, and when it's dark, you don't have a light, they can't see you. So I got up and followed him out the road and followed him in my truck around this section. I never did get caught. Yeah. Another thing, game wardens is trying to catch me for years, and I probably shouldn't tell it, but I'm going to anyway. And I had a guy call me, and it was before the HH World Hunt, and he said, "I need to talk to you, Dick, and I would like to go coon hunting with you." Well, I said, "Gib, I got my dog all tuned up for the World Hunt, and I said, I don't feel like I want to go, but I just sensed something wrong." So what had happened, Gib was out coon hunting, and he got caught by the game wardens. And game wardens made him call me and tried to set me up. So he called me back and said, "Dick, I need to talk to you." So game wardens is sitting in the background, listen to this. So Gib told me that game warden said, "I've been in the woods with Dick Brothers. I can't catch him." And long story short, I never got caught.
Dick, that's another reason you're a legend and you're here with us.
I don't know, but yeah.
I don't have no such luck. Do you, Charlie?
Well,
Charlie told us though earlier he was friend. He took the right approach. He was a friend with the head of the game commission.
Yeah, I know.
That?
I know.
well, I wasn't around where I left.
Yeah.
There was three of us hunting on Flat Rock one night, and of course our run law was closed. Well, this guy we was hunting with, he lived way back lane, so we'd park back there, and we was just walking and hunting, and them dogs just kept treeing. Man, we was in there for a long time, and so finally, up about 3 o'clock in the morning, I guess. Well, the dogs hit a coon and they tuck it way through there and got in close to a road. So the guy that lived back there, he said, "Man, we have made a lot of noise in here." And he says, "Them dogs are up close to that road." He says, "We better get up there and get them and get out of here." So we gets up there. And here's a river. We cross the river, Flat Rock. And here's a strip of ground, and then here's the road. So we gets up there. We got 3 dogs. They're all on that tree. There's a coon. So the one boy, he has a rifle with scope, and he shoots that coon. As soon as it hits the ground, lights come on us all around. Conservation officer, lay your weapon down. I grabbed my dog and swung it up under my arm. And I hit the river. And the guy that lived back the lane, he was already across the river. And the other boy, I had no idea. I knew he went to the left. So this game warden that I about halfway knew him, he was a little short guy. They called him Shorty. And so he took out, come across the river, and he took after me. Well, I never did see the guy that went. I mean, he must have really carried the mail. So I go till I'm out of wind. And I look back on my shoulder every once in a while, and here comes Shorty. And he's all the time saying, "Halt, stop, I'm telling you to stop." And he's wanting me to turn around so he can see my face. And so I say, "Shorty, surely to God you wouldn't shoot me in the back." So I just keep going. And I get down to where I have to walk. And I looked over my shoulder, and he's walking. So I walked off and left. I get back there, and in the fence row, here lays the guy that lives back the lane. And he said, where'd our buddy go? I said, I have no idea. So me and him went back to the house. He thought maybe they'd come back there, but they didn't. And so we took off all the hunting gear and everything. We got in the car, went around, and had one game warden left up there. And we just drove on off, and stayed gone, come back in the other way. And so we sat there for probably an hour, and the other boy came in the yard. And I said, when the heck did you go? He said, I was right down there. He said, didn't you hear all them quail hollering? And I said, well, I heard something. He said, that was them game wardens. He said, he found a big beech tree that was hollow, and he got up in it. High enough to where they couldn't see him in that opening. And he said, they was all around there. And he said, I heard them saying all the time, there was 3 of them guys.
Charlie, I knew we would open you up. I guess it took a couple of our stories to do it. But and just for the record, the statute of limitations has run on all those stories. So we are in good shape. I'll tell you, I know both you guys have competition hunted and been very, very successful doing so. And I was thinking on the way here about how I was going to pose this question, because something that kind of sticks out in my mind, and Dick is well aware of a little female that I had that I called Jewel, and did a lot of winning with her. But it wasn't always those big casts that you won that stick out in my mind. There was a night that we held the Virginia State hunt around my house, and man, we got to the first tree, and we're on the final cast, and we got to the first tree, and they said go ahead and shine, and man, it looked like something off of a helicopter or something. And I turned around and looked, there were 40 spectators on the cast. Yeah. Everybody there came, and that's just something that sticks out to me that I remember. Mm-hmm. Is there a cast that sticks out to you? I know you guys have been very successful in your hunts, and maybe it's not one of the bigger casts, but just something that was competitive, or just a cast that sticks out in your mind.
Probably one, and I could probably tell you 100, but and these people I didn't know. That's the reason I'm telling you. Is I went to the Grand American, and so they wanted to send some people to film it and so forth like that. So we gets out there, and I truly felt sorry for this one guy. He was carrying a camera up on his shoulder. And this has been a long time ago, so that thing probably weighed, I don't know, 80 pounds maybe. And it's got a light on it that just lights up the whole area, you know what I'm saying? So anyways, they're just going to film for a while, few coon, whatever, and then they're going to put it on news broadcasts and whatever down there. And so I thought, heck, we're hunting, for everybody striking tree and their dogs. And so we had treed 3 coon, and I was ahead in the cast, and so then the film crew and everything decided, well, we've seen enough, so then they wanted to kind of do some interviews with some people. And, there's always somebody that, I don't know, kind of wants to put down coon hunting, one thing. And so we had 30-some spectators on that cast. And, sometimes a dog won't perform with so many people, so many lights and everything. They're not used to it. But the dogs did fine, you know what I'm saying? So I'm sitting in the truck, a whole bunch of guys around me, a bunch of guys from North Carolina. And this guy, he gets up there and he says a bunch of stuff that, none of us should ever say. And So them guys, Charlie, you got to get up there and say something. You got to say something. So they said, anybody else want to say anything? And I said, well, I guess I'm elected. So, and I was told the honest truth. I said, you know, where we live, it's cold, bad. Back then they had real nice weather down there. And I said, us guys from up north, we come down here, we make friends, and we just come down here to enjoy the weather, do the best we can do. And, you know, we love the sport of coon hunting. We believe that more kids and whatever should be involved. You should be taking your kids hunting and stuff like that. So the next day, I seen on the news, and they'd cut everything out except just what I said. So, I was glad about that for what the one guy had got up and said. You know?
Yeah. It's like you said, there's always one, right?
Yep.
So I'm glad
Yep.
they saw that for what it was.
Yep.
How about you, Dick? A cast that maybe sticks out.
When I won the Walker Days in 1997 with Loctite Sarah, I got gas, and we had a really good hunt. I scored 1575 Friday and 1900 Saturday, and I got a Rob Wallen was in that cast. He hunted really good English dogs, and he said, guy said that couldn't be scored, and they put a field rep on me that night. So that I scored 1900 with Sarah. She was first and first type dog. She would be split treed every drop. What happened that night? I scored the 1900. The dogs were really split treed close. You know, a lot of coons. So that didn't take much time to score the trees.
Right.
So you can do that. So that was one of my favorite hunts.
Yeah,
You know?
that sounds like it was action packed.
Action packed very much. And like I say, they put a UK field rep on me, and I showed them that could be scored.
Yeah, that's great. Something that I guess we talked about before the folks came in here, and Charlie just kind of touched on it, was about getting our youth into the sport. How have y'all witnessed the sport change over the years that you've been in it?
Well, you know, mainly when Dick and I was hunting, it was all 3-hour casts.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you could be behind in the first 2 hours, but if you had a good coon dog, he'd come ahead in that third hour.
Right.
But that has changed on account of the population. And then you have to change the rules. Everybody kind of says, well, you bred too much tree in the dog, you bred the track out of the dog, and a lot of that is true.
Mm-hmm.
Because that has happened, because people wants everything to happen quick because you got less time to do it in, you know what I'm saying? Now, the way and I sure don't mean to hurt anybody's feelings, but somebody asked me that question. They said, well, if the dogs back then, what would they do today? And I said, well, if we had the dogs that we had back then, and this was the only source of food, we would have plenty of food, but you might starve to death. That was kind of the way I answered the question.
Right.
And what I mean by that is, it's just the way dogs has been bred. Now, dogs today, they will have most of the coon, but most of the competition hunters tell me they don't want a dog that will run a track more than 10 minutes old. Well, Dick and I's had dogs that will run a track 3 or 4 hours old and have the coon, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And they didn't get out there, and a lot of guys say, well, they get out there and waller. Well, they don't waller. A good track dog don't waller because Even back then, you had to have a good track dog, and he had to be a good locating dog. Well, if dogs couldn't run ahead of him, they couldn't tree ahead of him. You know what I'm saying?
And that's a very good point, and it was something I kind of wanted to wind down with, and I know we might be comparing apples to oranges,
Yeah.
because of the time and the way that the breed has changed over the years. But Dick, I heard we've talked about your Brandy female, we've talked about Sarah, we've talked about Big Mike and Mac. What if you could go back, the dogs that you've handled or the dogs that you've owned, what would be your final four? If you could go back historically, and what would be your final four, and which one of your dogs you think comes out on top?
Well, that's a hard question because I've been very fortunate. I've had a lot of good dogs, yeah, through the years. A beauty dog was a measuring stick, and I like Big Night and Bike. I like Sarah, Tara. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, Mac dog was a good dog, and but I like a track dog. I don't like a trailing dog. There's a difference, you know.
Yeah, big difference.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Well, let me ask it this way: if you could go back tonight in your hunting walker days here in 2022, and you could go back and hunt one of your dogs, which one would you enter in it?
That's a hard question.
Really? I know, that's why they had me do this job.
That's
Dick.
a hard question, buddy. That's why you're a lawyer. Yeah, I don't know, really.
Yeah. Would it be drum for you, Charlie?
No, I tell you the way I always looked at that. I've had that question put to me so many times, and here's the way I always answer people: is the dogs was gone. My favorite dog was the dog that I was hunting at the time. That was my favorite dog at the time. Now, and I was like Dick. I just didn't have one good dog. I'd always have at least two good dogs to competition hunt. I didn't keep a lot of dogs around. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But I was fortunate enough that I couldn't hunt two dogs in the same hunt. You know what I'm saying? So that man's sitting right over there.
You can
probably
say his
the
name.
best handler I ever
you can
had.
give him a plug.
Yeah.
Who are you talking about, Charlie?
Talking about Bill Mullins sitting over there. I'd had several guys that hunt dogs for me, but he hunted dogs the way I hunted them.
Yeah.
And he asked me one time, he said, well, he was hunting a dog for me, but not in the hunts. And he said, Charlie, how come you won't let me hunt your dogs in the hunt? I said, well, can you hunt a dog in the hunt? And he said, well, I think I can. So I said, all right. I said, but there's one thing about it. I said, you have to hunt the dog honest. I said, I don't want nothing that isn't honest. And he said, I'll give you my word, I'll never, ever embarrass you. And he never did.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And I know you guys, and again, I think this speaks to why you're here having this interview, but you're still hunting good dogs.
Trying our best.
Yeah. Tell us, what dog do you have right now, Charlie, that...
I got a young dog that he's about as far along. He's about a year and a half old. And he's about as far along as what I would have had a dog at 10 months old. Because this winter I didn't get to hunt a lot. You know, I've had open heart. I got 15 stents, so I got to be careful what I do. I just can't hunt like I did.
Right.
And but I still enjoy as good a dog as I ever did. And I can go hunting with Dick and his dog do a good job, or anybody else, and I really like it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And Dick, I know you have Big Timer, and you've got Queenie. Queenie is in the finals of the Tournament of Champions next week. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Tell us about the dogs you have now, and what you like and which one you're pushing.
Well, I like to push big timer, but you know how he had a lick you and it set him back. I'm going to hunt it tonight, see how he performs. You know, once a dog had Lyme disease or licky, they aren't ever the same, you know. And the queen bitch is a dominating first strike dog and moves around good, wild, and she will have a coon, and you can't hunt her down. That's what I like about her, you know. And a fire bitch is making a really good dog too. She's 18 months old, and she's out of a 20-year-old semen I had, out of clay semen.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, fellas, I can't say how honored I've been to be up here with you. Like I've said about 4 times now, there's a reason that y'all are here at the Legends table, and I want to thank you for what you've done for this breed and for this sport. And I know I speak for a lot of people when I say that. Is there anybody, before I open it up for questions, that you guys would like to thank, or maybe somebody that you guys looked up to when you were coming through the sport as much as we look up to you guys?
Well, probably, I don't know. When I was young, I'd sit around and read them old mountain music books and Bull Cry, Cooner, and Merchant, Timothy Ball. You know, there's all the time putting ads in there. A lot of guys, you know, Gail Flowers, hunts English dogs, Fine Man. Just a lot of people that, and then probably one of my first experiences was one year I decided I'd go to Automotive, and so I went up and I went on a cast, and it was an old ground, and when the cast was over, I thought to myself, you know, I'm not hunting a bad dog myself. It was enjoyable, don't get me wrong, but it was some people that I got to know later, draw
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot.
Right.
But, you know, then a lot of people will come, and especially now, I only really and truthfully studied a couple dogs for a short while, because I really wasn't into studying dogs. I hunted more females than I hunted males.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people would come and want to go hunting with you, and use you as a measuring stick. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that was okay with me. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of them was really pleasant about it. And they'd come go hunt with you, and they'd say, "Well, I need something else bred into my dog." You know what I'm saying? Or something like that. Make you feel pretty good.
Yeah.
So.
Dick, any closing remarks or anything that you'd like to say before I ask if anybody in the audience has any questions?
No, I just met a lot of good people in this sport, and I've got a lot of very close friends in this sport. Yeah.
Well, again, thank you, fellas, so very much. And I think you speak for a lot of people when you say that right there, Dick, and that's why we do what we do, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Anybody in the audience have a question they'd like to ask these fellas? That must mean we did really good, y'all. Well, with that, we really appreciate y'all being here and giving us your time, and I can't say enough about how important this. You heard Danielle say that this was her favorite part of the whole weekend, and I can see why. So really appreciate you guys for being out here and sharing some of your wisdom and your knowledge with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
for your good interview.
Thank you.
Really.
Y'all give a round of applause.
All right. Well, that was a really good interview, and I think Brett did a really good job asking some great questions. And it was really awesome to hear these guys talk about some of their memories from the past and hear what they're doing still currently, because they're still hunting and still getting after it. So that was pretty neat to see. And I got to talk with them some after this interview, and I got their contact information, and we're going to get together and set up some pleasure hunts so I can film more episodes of my YouTube series, the Houndsman Spotlight series. Some of you may have already seen that, but if you're new to it, that's where I go and travel around with some of like the most well-known people, and if they're still hunting, we'll go pleasure hunting, and I'll show their dogs and kind of walk you through just the whole experience of hunting with them, and then I'll also pick their brains and just kind of go over how they train dogs and start dogs and some of their story of just themselves, and try and get with some of these people and preserve these memories that we can pass down to generations of new upcoming hunters, and also be some good entertainment for us as well. So if that sounds interesting to you, head on over to YouTube and check out Stark Outdoors, or type in Clayton Stark. That'll take you to my page. So that's just kind of what I do, and I hope you enjoy it. I appreciate all your guys' continued support, and I'll talk to you next week.
He ended up treeing 7/10 of a mile. Had my light on coming in, and he had another coon, so turned him loose 3 times. He had 3 coons.